Hour of 9 o'clock is here, and I'd like to open the meeting of the County Commission in Indian River, Florida. And we'll have Reverend Dawn Lawton do the invocation, and Commissioner Tom Lowther will lead us in the pledge to the flag. Please rise.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we've been blessed with a holiday as well as a Sabbath for extra rest and renewal. Now we roll up our sleeves to resume our worldly work in a sacred way by invoking your presence. Help us set aside other labors, concerns, and agendas so we can focus on the issues before our county in the meeting. Keep foremost in our minds the good of the many and not just our personal perspectives. Use our commissioners as servants not only of the public, but of your purposes, and may your kingdom come and your will be done. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Additions and deletions, we have several items, nothing serious. There's a correction on page 57, a correction on page 58, an additional backup page on 81A, a correction at 224. There's an additional backup letter from Mr. Canoni, and 13B1 is the same item, and a correction at page 256. So if you give me a motion.
I would like to pull item 13B.
I'm sorry?
60.
Isn't that down the road a little
We're
bit?
not on the consent agenda yet.
No, but we're additions and deletions to the
Addition and
agenda.
deletion.
Oh, you want to pull it off the agenda?
I want to pull it off the agenda.
What is that?
What?
That's, I put on the agenda about Route 60 discussion.
And you want to do? You want to remove that?
I want to remove that
As your item?
as my item.
And you'll leave salary study?
I'll leave salary studies on.
Move approval
Okay,
as
we're going
amended?
to remove 13B1. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now a motion.
Move approval as amended?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I believe Mr. Paladin wants to remove his item 2 on Route 60.
How would you believe that? I hadn't heard him say anything.
Well, he met with me this morning and asked that it be removed.
Mr. Paladin, was that other items by the public, was he?
Yes, I'd like to pull that item today.
Okay.
Public discussion items, that would be item
The only
9B1. Okay.
You amend that motion, or you need a second motion?
Thank you.
Is that all right on your motion, Sandra? And the second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Proclamations and presentations. We have a presentation of a retirement award honoring Rita Dion for 30 and a half years of service to Indian River County Youth Gardens. Rita, are you here yet?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Come forward.
30 and a half year in one day now.
And one day, she's still here. Well, why don't you take the podium? We'll give you a chance to respond to all these bad remarks about you. This is a proclamation honoring Rita Dion on her retirement from Indian River County Board of County Commissioners Youth Guidance Volunteer Program of Indian River County. Whereas Rita Dion is retiring from Indian River County effective August 31, 2006. Whereas Rita Dion has been employed with Indian River County since December 1975 as Director and Department Head of Youth Guidance Volunteer Program of Indian River County, which is the position she holds to present. And whereas Rita Dion served this county and the public with distinction and selflessness. During her years of service, she was dedicated, and her work was greatly appreciated by the employer, co-workers, children, parents, and volunteers throughout Indian River County. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that a board applauds the efforts on behalf of the county, and the board wishes to express their appreciation for the dedicated service Rita has given to Indian River County for the last 31.5 years and one day. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners and staff extend heartfelt wishes for success in your future endeavors. And we'd like to present this to you in a minute. You have 2.
I have 2.
You have 2. This one certifies that Rita Dion is hereby presented this retirement award for outstanding performance and faithful service to Indian River County Board of County Commissioners for 30.5 years of service on his 31st day of August. Say it's more than a couple of days overtime.
Well, I've been working every day anyway.
Still getting paid?
Still doing it.
Anyway, would you like me to give these to you first or make your comment first? Well, come on up here. I couldn't applaud, I'll just bang these together. Your words, please, Rita.
I'm really, believe it or not, I'm actually speechless. People say that's impossible, but I am. And I thank you all. I've enjoyed every day of it, and I'm still going to be involved. And I see you everywhere, Art. Everywhere I go, you're there. So I'll probably be seeing you in all
Yes, she
kinds.
is.
The people who retire seem to be out there all the time. And I want to thank my staff members and Barbara.
Stand up, staff.
Barbara,
Absolutely.
Let's
everybody, my
recognize the staff.
volunteers, staff. Volunteers. The children couldn't be here because they're obviously in school. I didn't let them out. But I really appreciate this, and I will be seeing you. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you.
Yes, absolutely. Did a phenomenal job.
Thank you so much
Really
for your
miss
hard
it.
work all those years.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you, Richard.
I think the item that brings the city here has been pulled, is that right? Oh, wait. Item 9, 5B, just kidding. Presentation by Jim Gabbard, City Manager, City of Vero Beach. Mr. Gabbard, glad to have you here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. It's nice to be here this morning. And Mr. Baird, thank you for getting us on so quickly. We're involved in a very, I guess, for lack of a better term, difficult process in exiting our agreement with the FMPA, which all of you, I'm sure, have read about. We've had many public meetings. We've have lots of exchanges in our city council meetings regarding this issue, and yet probably one of the things that we don't do the best is tell you how good our system is and where we're going. I saw this as an opportunity to, instead of coming to try to refute some things that I heard at the last county commission meeting, I think that this is an opportunity for us to educate the public and to give the commission some information on a system that we're very proud of. And you, the commission, and the people in the county that we serve are our partners. And the county gets a lot of revenue from the city utilities, the electric utility, and we want to explain that to you. I've got John Lee here, who is our customer service manager. We'll try to explain to you a little bit about our rates and how they're formulated and who gets what. And I think it'll really open your eyes to what we are, and not the big bad wolf that people think we are. And so, without any further ado, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Jim.
Good morning. My name is John Lee, and I'm the Customer Service Manager for the city. I have 6 slides I'd like to present to you. This is my first time in here, so forgive me if I go back and forth. I'm going to use the portable mic as I do my presentation. There have been terms used.
I think you turned it off.
No, I have to wait, I'm told. She said I have to wait a few seconds. Can you hear me? Technical support.
There it comes.
What is this, time delay, right? There's been some talk about how many customers are inside the city, how many customers are outside the city. I heard the term used 60% outside, 40% inside. But from a billing standpoint, we actually have 3 different customer groups, and I'll go over them for you and give you a little information. The first group is what we call inside city customers, and if you look at that, as of the end of last month, there were 14,248 customers, or about 38.7% of our customers are inside the city limits. When it comes to electric rates, those people pay a base electric rate that is approved by the Florida Public Service Commission, and they pay a fuel adjustment or power cost adjustment, again, with the formula approved by the Public Service Commission. Additionally, there's a 10% utility tax levied on their bill on a portion of the base rate, but none of the power cost adjustment. Only a portion. Then we go to Indian River Shores customers, 3,545, or about 9.6%. They're billed on the same rate. They're billed on the same power cost adjustment. They do not pay a utility tax. They pay a 10% outside city surcharge. That 10% outside city surcharge is levied on, again, only a portion of the base rate and none of the fuel adjustment. Those are important. And then we come to the customers we're going to call our Indian River County customers, and it's the largest group, 18,998, or 51.6%. Of course, it comes up to be 99.9%. There's one extra customer somewhere. So that's the way you break it down. But to make it more simple, what we do is say the number of customers that do not pay a county fee. And the reason for that is the Indian River County customer pays an additional 6% county fee that goes to your funds, and that is on all of the base rate and all of the power cost adjustment. None of it is separated out.
John, hold up a minute. You said of the 18,000 or almost 19,000 county customers, 17,000 do not pay a county fee?
No, 18,000, yes, 17,793 are the customers that do not pay county fee. Those are inside city limits and Indian River Shores. Okay. So in essence, the bottom line on their bill is exactly the same. Those people that get a county bill have a 6% additional fee. That comes to you. And we'll go over that. I'll show you some of the dollars and how it's arrived at. Right. It really isn't smoke and mirrors. It's really something that's been done for a very long time.
One question, too, please.
Certainly.
Do you have any special contracts with the that you've negotiated with the commercial customers?
You mean for some type of discounts or? Mm-hmm. There are none.
Okay.
We have, in essence, 3 basic rate groups: residential, small commercial, large commercial. We also have one industrial customer, Piper. So
and they all pay the same rate?
Every rate class pays the same rate. Residential is slightly different than commercial, those sort of things. Yes, ma'am.
All commercial pays the same
Everyone pays the same rate, inside, outside. The only thing difference is how the fees are applied. Are there any questions on that slide? Now, this next one I think is probably the heart of the matter, and this is dollars. And to give you a baseline, I took the actual dollars from last year's budget, the 2004-2005. The first line is the utility tax for the electric utility, and that was about $1.7 million. Then there's a contribution from the electric fund to the general fund of the city, and that was about $5.6 million for a total of $7.3 million in real dollars last year. I use that as a baseline so we have something to compare it to. The next is just how have we done the first 10 months of the year, because we still have another month to go before the books are closed. The first 10 months on utility tax is $1.4 million. The contribution from the electric fund, $4.9, for a total of $6.3 million. Now, if we project that out to what we think we'll collect by the end of the year, you'll be at about $1.8 million from utility tax and about $6 million contribution from the electric fund, for a total of about 7.8. If you take that 51.6% from the previous slide, which are those county residents, you could say about $3.1 million of that is actually generated from county residents. Because obviously they don't contribute to the utility tax portion, so it'd be 51.6% of the $6 million transfer from the general fund. So about $3.1 million.
Goes from county residents to the city general
to the city general fund
through the electrical fund.
Through the electric.
May I ask a question too?
Certainly.
When you talk about the utility tax, what is that, like a franchise fee also, or is that, what's the utility tax?
Well, we'll go over the utility tax as I go through the numbers. I'm going to show you the actual verbiage that all these come from so you can understand clearly. And I'll leave a copy of this with you so that you can have your attorneys look at it and those sort of things. But I thought we'd go over the numbers and then get to the rationale if that's all right. Any more questions here? Now, I showed you the city's portion. This is the county's portion. Again, using the baseline of 2004-2005, the county received $2.2 million in their franchise fee from the city electric. Again, we simply collect it and pass it to you. If we take the same 10 months of 2005, 2006 as we did on the previous slide, you're at $2.3 million so far. And because August, September tend to be some of our hottest months, and therefore the bills are higher, you're looking to get about $2.7 million, or 22.7% increase over last year.
Okay, and that's just based on the percentage increase in the bill at the base rate?
It really isn't about the base rate, because remember, the utility tax and the outside city surcharge are only on a portion of the base rate and none of the fuel adjustment. The county fee by design, and we'll go over this, is on the entire bill. So as the fuel adjustment went up, obviously your 6% of that is now a bigger number.
What portion of the base rate are we talking about?
Well, about $15 of the base rate is exempt from tax based on a 1973 court case about overcharging Exxon, and that was before my time. So that was what we call embedded in the base. The fuel charge at that point was embedded in the base. From that point forward, everything is outside and shown separately. But that $15.56, I believe it is, plus the entire fuel adjustment is exempt from utility tax and outside city surcharge.
Okay. And how often do you change the fuel rate, the fuel adjustment rate?
We can change the fuel adjustment as much as monthly if we wanted to. The problem is it takes about 2 weeks just to do the mechanical part of changing it. So we like to look at it every 2 or 3 months and make a change as necessary. You don't want to get too far behind one way or the other. You don't want to lower it too quickly and then only have to turn around the next month and raise it. Any questions on that?
Does the PSC establish the fuel rate, or is that just a determination made by the city?
The City of Vero Beach files, and the things that you've seen here and will continue to see, are filed with the Public Service Commission.
Okay.
They review what we call our rate structure. They don't look at every nickel and dime, because they do that for Florida Power and Light, but they have a rate filing of about 900 pages. So they look at our rate structure to make sure that we're billing properly, that it falls in line with other utilities throughout the state, those sort of things. We have a formula to determine our power cost adjustment. That formula is also approved by the Public Service Commission. In that filing, we say how often we're going to review it, how we're going to make changes, and how we apply it.
Okay.
Now, the last thing the last part of this little part of the presentation is, where do these numbers come from? You asked a question, Mr. Wheeler. The city utility tax of 10% shall be added to all rate schedules for service inside the city limits. The amount will not exceed the limitation established by subsection 166.123 Florida statute. And again, I'll leave copies of this so that you can look it up. And this is filed with the Public Service Commission. I took this specifically from our filing.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Certainly.
So the amount shall not exceed a limitation, but you can do 10%.
10% or less.
The amount shall not exceed the limitation. So the second sentence of that's giving me a little problem. It's either 10% or 10%. What about when you say it shall not exceed some limitation? Is that a dollar figure then?
No, it's a way to approach the tax. And again, I'm not a lawyer. You'd have to ask someone else that question. But we set it at 10%. But remember, it's 10% of a portion of the base and none of the fuel adjustment. Those are our decisions to be done. And there's court cases that have said this is the way it must be done. And again, that's just the way it's filed with the Public Service Commission.
Okay.
Now, the outside city surcharge. A surcharge for service provided outside the corporate limits of the city shall be added to all rate schedules. The amount of the surcharge shall be equal to the utility tax imposed on service inside the city limits. It must be the same inside and outside. The surcharge shall apply to the same base at the same rate in the same manner and to the same rate schedules as utility tax, all set forth in Rule 25-9.525 of the Florida Administrative Code. And these are the rules we go by. And what it basically says is we have to apply the same rates and the same fees and the same schedule to everybody outside the city as we do inside the city. So at the end of the day, the bottom line of their bill is exactly the same. So people outside the city do not pay more for utility service than people inside the city to this point.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is the next line, county fee in lieu of franchise fee. A 6% county fee in lieu of franchise fee shall be applied to all rate schedules for electric, water, and/or sewer provided to the customers who reside in the unincorporated area of Indian River County and receive service from the city. and shall be applied to the total bill for such services pursuant to ordinance provisions of Indian River County. Okay. Which means you apply the 6% to the entire bill based on your ordinance. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's done all over the state. So this is all consistent. So legally and financially, the Public Service Commission says everyone is doing what they're supposed to do.
Can I ask you, and this, you may not have the answer to this, but I'm assuming we also do that to FP&L?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Yes, you do.
Okay.
All, and to our own utilities.
To your own utilities and
All cable, water and sewer, FP&L, City of Vero Beach, we apply the 6%.
Where does that money go?
Into the MSTU, because we can only do that in the unincorporated area, with the exception of where we charge in the Sebastian. We put that in the general fund because it's in Sebastian.
And that's the water system in Sebastian?
Yeah, within the incorporated area of Sebastian. Otherwise, we charge all the other franchise tax, and it's used to offset the ad valorem tax.
Okay.
It goes in the MSTU or the unincorporated
What about
area.
the percentage on the cable inside the municipality of Sebastian?
We don't get that. We do not get it in the incorporated area. We only get our own water and sewer.
So they get the 6% then inside the city limits of Sebastian on the cable?
Yes.
Okay.
Just like cities get to charge a telephone surtax, and we don't within the cities, they get to keep it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Let me continue that a little bit, Joe. That 6%, that is to pay for what service?
It's the use of the right-of-way.
Use of the right-of-way.
Yes, and what we do is a tax. We put it on our water and sewer, anything that uses the right-of-way, FP&L, City of Vero Beach. We can't put it on where counties are not allowed to put it on telephones where cities are. Cities are allowed to have a tax on telephones. Counties were left out of the law. So we do it for all of that, and we also do it for our garbage franchises and cable in the unincorporated area, and it goes in the MSTU and offsets ad valorem taxes.
Isn't a franchise fee usually provided by the person who owns the utility? Why is it in lieu of a franchise fee? Why
It's just actually, I think that's just a terminology.
Why doesn't the city just pay us a franchise fee and instead of us having to charge it to the customers directly?
well, in either case, I think you'd be charging it directly to the customer because on an FP&L bill, they show a franchise fee that the county gets. So it's the same approach. Legally, I can't tell you why.
I think the difference is,
But we're collecting a franchise fee from our customers, whereas it should be paid for by the owner of the utility, shouldn't it not?
Either way, I mean.
Either way, the customer's
Customer's
going to
gonna
pay
pay
for it.
But I understand what you're saying, but still, it comes out of the same pocket eventually.
Okay.
And it's the same for, as you say, telephone, cable, television, all those things pay a franchise fee. They collect it from the customer and they pass it to whoever the government is.
yeah, our fee is used to offset the ad valorem taxes. It's when it goes in, the other fees that our customers pay do not offset their ad valorem taxes. It goes to City of Vero Beach.
General fund.
All right. Thanks, John.
Okay. The next part, I have to start by admitting that for the first 1,000 kilowatt hours, Florida Power and Light is probably the least expensive utility in the state. Once they hit 1,000 kilowatt hours, their base rate and their fuel adjustment goes up by about 15%. It's a very interesting way of rate making, and it's very effective because almost everybody uses 1,000 kilowatt hours as a comparison. So FP&L always looks really good. So what I've done is taken what I consider a real house, and I'm going to show you a comparison between FP&L and the city. Now, in my comparison, I used a 1,600 square foot house, which is a typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. They're getting bigger these days, but it used to be a typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. This time of year, in the summer, a customer would use about 1.5 kilowatt hours of energy for every square foot, so that would mean they would use 2,400 kilowatt hours of electricity. If it was a City of Vero Beach customer, what we call outside city county resident, as we said, are now a county customer, their bill for that 2,400 kilowatt hours would be $327.69 with the city. Using Florida Power and Light rates off their own website, The bill from Florida Power and Light would be $290.94, or a cost difference of approximately $36.75, or 12.6%. That's the real difference. Again, that first 1,000 kilowatt hours, they're the best in the state. It's I think, a very good approach. Probably the only one in the state that does it that way, but they certainly look good in comparisons.
And just to confirm, or to reiterate what you stated earlier, City of Vero Beach outside city residents do not pay any more than inside the city limits.
That's correct. The only difference in the bill would be the 6%, your 6% fee. And that is an absolutely legitimate fee. I'm not here to say there's anything wrong with it. It's perfectly legitimate and charged by every county in the state.
Okay.
Now, one of the reasons I wanted to put this up was sometimes people look at a difference, whether it's 5%, 10%, and 15%, and try to decide whether that's fair or not. Of course, historically, and I've been here 26 years, there's been times when we were a little bit cheaper than FP&L. Right now, we're not. There's no question about it. And as Jim said, we're trying our best to make some changes in our approach so that we can bring that more in line. But I want to add one more comparison, and then I'll be done if you have some patience. And this is why I think you need to be careful when you just look at raw numbers and try to make judgments. This is a comparison using that same 1,600 square foot house. But now we're talking about water and sewer. Inside the city, we bill on meter size as our base. So we're going to start with a 5/8 inch meter, and the customer would diffuse 6,000 gallons of water. My understanding from your website, again on your rates, is that you base it on what's called an ERU, equivalent residential unit. Pretty much the same as our meter size, a different approach. So if we took a City of Vero Beach outside city customer or a county resident that gets their water and sewer from the city, their bill for that 6,000 gallons of water would be $49.35. The same customer that's a county resident, their bill would be $55.28 for a cost difference of $5.93, or about 12%. So at least at that level, we're actually a little bit cheaper than you are. Now that may change as the levels go up because rates are dynamic things. But what I wanted to point out is that although we may be a little more expensive than FP&L at certain rates, we're actually a little bit cheaper than you are at certain rates. But I think they're reasonable numbers.
What made you pick 6,000 gallons? I just have a question.
That's a good question.
Did it work right, or? I just wanted to know.
Well, what I did, and that's an interesting question, because what I did before I became customer service manager, I was in charge of resource conservation for the city. So over the last 26 years, I've been in about 10,000 homes in the city, county, doing what's called energy audits. So I have a fairly good understanding of what a typical family uses. Now, we're not talking about irrigation usage here. We're talking about house usage for bathing and cooking and laundry. It's about 1,500 to 2,000 gallons per person. So in that 1,600 square foot house, that would be average usage. Irrigation usage obviously changes dramatically, but that is base house usage. So that's why I picked that.
What is the difference between a Indian River County resident fee then and the City of Vero Beach outside the city county resident? Help me with that one more time.
Well, one of them we serve, and the other you serve.
So with the water and sewer, okay, so in fact your sewer lines and water lines go outside the city just like the power lines do?
Absolutely. And that was done, of course, over the years because what's easier to serve, because actually right now we serve some customers down in St. Lucie County because it was easier for us to get to them than for them to come up from Fort Pierce.
And also, we don't serve all our city customers, do not have sewer.
That's true, too.
Do you know how many homes in the city do have sewer?
I'm sorry, I don't have that number. I can tell you that we have about 12,000 water customers in total and about 8,000 sewer customers. So in the total service territory, there's about 3,000 or 4,000 that are still on septic tanks. And they're spread out, some on the Barrier Island, on some of those sand streets, some right in the heart of the city on some of the older areas, still have septic tanks. But that's all I really wanted to do was show you some numbers, tell you that you're about 51.6%, that you're going to get about $2.7 million that you're going to use to offset some of the expenses you have, that basically I think everybody's doing pretty much what they are supposed to do. None of us like higher gasoline prices or higher fuel prices on our electric bills or higher taxes, but it's a fact of life right now. And we wanted to come here today and just at least clear it up in your minds. And I'll leave a copy of this presentation for you to go over, and you can have your legal staff look at it, look at the statutes, and decide if you want to tweak things. But we're here to work with you because we all are serving our customers. inside, outside, it doesn't matter. They're all our customers. Thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you, John. Any questions of Mr. Lee?
If I could, yeah, I think the individual that we had here last week, or last meeting, whenever that was, I think that her concern was that I really believe that she views it as a county resident, and the amount of the money of the electric, the Vero Beach Electric going into the general fund is what it appeared to me, it said, aha, this is what I'm paying for. And I think that maybe just addressing that to a certain extent to her, I mean, this sounds like something that may calm her a little bit, but I don't know.
If I may, I think what I heard from her, and the reason I reacted, based on what she presented, was a bill that was either 50 or 100% more than what FP&L would have charged for her bill. And those numbers were way out of proportion, and this clears up that. I don't know, she said that she talked to FP&L and so on and so forth. So, you know, I think we as a commission made a decision at the last meeting based on the fact that she said that her bill was X number of dollars, and it was like either 50% more or twice as much with FP&L with the numbers that she had here. We go back in the record and look. That's where I was coming from, because there was a tremendous inequity there. Based on what you're showing us today, that inequity doesn't exist. I mean, there's a difference in price, but I think it's explainable, and I think you did a fine job doing that, and I appreciate it.
And I did hear the customer that spoke briefly, and she hasn't come and talked to me because I believe that was her first bill on a new house. And often there's other charges, setup charges and those sort of things. So without having the bill in front of me, it's very difficult to dispute her numbers. Her math may be right on the first bill. It may not be true on the next bill or the bill after that. And that's what makes it so difficult when you deal with customers. If they go from a non-air conditioning using month to an air conditioning using month, their bill can literally double. And that's hard for them to understand. So we appreciate the dilemma.
I think there's probably, too, is they, like you said, you might have used the 1,000 kilowatt hour rate, and instead of jumping it up to the 15 or whatever 1,500 kilowatt rate, might have just multiplied that times the number of kilowatt hours they used, and that would show a tremendous inequity.
It certainly would.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come over, and I regret that we didn't ask you to do this sooner.
Well, I spend an awful lot of my time answering these kind of questions, not in a formal setting like this, but one-on-one. So I understand your confusion. I understand the confusion and frustration of our customers, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Good presentation. Mr. Gabbard?
I'd just like to thank you for allowing us to come today and just tell you that our system is in great shape. We've made some real improvements. The hurricanes, if nothing else, were a real blessing in that we've got new lines almost all through our service territory. And we don't expect to be down as long if we have another hurricane. And we're here to serve the public. And if you watched and read the newspapers, effective September 1st, we've had an 8% reduction in our costs, so we're moving in the right direction. We were 1 or 2 in the state in expensive electricity about 6-8 months ago. Now we're way down. I think we're past actually 11 or 12th now. So we're moving in the right direction. We've got a quality system. We've got some outstanding professionals running it, and I would compare them to anybody, FPL or anyone else. And in 2010, when we get out of our agreement with FMPA, you're going to see what you're going to want to move in the city because your electric is going to be cheaper. So thank you for your time.
You're talking about annexing then, Chief? Is that what you're saying?
Sir?
Annexing? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Okay. And anybody wants to come in, we'll take them. So.
Oh, God. You might want to reconsider that.
While all the power people are here, I lived in the city for a long time, like 30-some-odd years before I moved to the county. And with city power, the one thing I think that the city has is reliability in the power system. Because I could probably estimate, my power was out in 30 years in the city 10 or 20 times. I get that much in a month from Florida Power and Light. I have become expert at resetting my little clocks all around the house.
Well, you know,
It flicks almost every day. We have a power outage with Florida Power and Light. And I don't know why that is, but you guys were doing well.
I know after both hurricanes, and I appreciate it. In fact, I even said it was worth a little extra money, and I wasn't even here at the time. But I had electric in my house 2 days after the hurricane, and on city electric. And but we got underground utilities, and I assume we're on the same circuit as probably Lowe's and the mall. Although many people in the neighborhood thought they got electric because I lived there, so I appreciated their appreciation, but it was inaccurate. But I've been, you know, and I hardly ever, in fact, I got a surge the other day. I think it's the first surge I've had in 2 years.
Yep.
You're talking about electric, right?
Electric.
Glad you said that, Wesley.
What do you mean? Okay, we're up to the consent agenda. We have any questions? I think we need to pull items number E and F because they're contrary. There's 2 selections for our Code Enforcement Board.
I'd pull E and F.
E and F has been pulled. Any other items to be pulled from
O and
consent?
P.
O and P.
O and P. M and O.
I'd like to,
O, P.
I'd like to pull S, please.
S.
Yes.
Okay.
Just pull the whole agenda.
Any others? If not, I need a motion to approve all except E, F, O, P, S.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, appointments to Code Enforcement Board. I have one, and Wesley has one.
No, Tom. Oh, does Wesley have one too?
Oh, I'm sorry. Was it
No,
yours,
mine-
Tom?
mine-
Yeah,
turn
Tom.
the papers in.
Tom.
Yeah.
Let me get to that page, 4852. And Richard Cahoy, who is I've known for a long time, and I think he would be a good replacement for Mr. Shack. Tom, you have anything to say?
I
about
have,
it?
and I too have Mr. Keith Hedin, who is, and I don't know Mr. Cahoy, and I'm sure he's a good person. I know Mr. Hedin is still an active businessman here in town and would speak his mind.
Yes, he would.
I never seen him do that.
Well, I'll go ahead.
I know both gentlemen, and both of them would be an asset to this commission and this board. I did look at since both of them are good men, I did look at the date of the application, and I noticed Mr. Cahoy did apply has been on the list much longer.
Yes, he's been in contact with me for a while for a position on something.
So if that was a deciding factor, I would go your way.
Okay, let's,
Is that a motion?
well, I think we'll just poll the commission and see who you want to support.
I'm hating.
And I don't know the other applicant personally, and I know Keith, and Keith is a straightforward, straight-talking, straight-shooting individual, and I like that. I did ask him, though, why he wanted to do this. I think it's probably the toughest board we have. But I support Keith.
Keith, you support Keith?
Yes, sir.
I will support Mr. Cahoy. Tom? I guess you support your guy.
I'm going to change my mind. No, I'm going to support Mr. Hedin.
Mr. Hedin?
I will support
Mr. Hedin has been appointed to the...
Mr. Cahoy's a great fellow, too, and hope he'll apply again.
Yep, he'll stand by. Okay, those items are taken care of. O, who pulled O? Gary?
Yeah, my only question on that is extending these, does that give us an opportunity to bring them into compliance with some of the new things that we've done since last year?
And I noticed that these are the same people but different first names. Are they brothers? Is this the same group, or what is this?
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. Bill DeBraw from the County Attorney's Office. On both of the items that were just pulled from the agenda, they have taken over the development from a previous developer. Mr. Markovsky is here. If you have any questions of him, you may certainly address him. I'm sure he's willing to answer. As far as bring them into compliance, to address Commissioner Wheeler's question, no, that would not cause them to change their subdivision to have bigger buffers or what have you. They would still be operating under the code as it existed at the time they had their plat approved.
Any further questions, Mr. Attorney?
No.
Do I have a motion?
You want to do both of them, Gary? You have
Yeah, we can
questions?
do both of them. I had the same question for both of them.
All right. Move to approve O and P.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And item number S. Who wants S?
Yes, thank you. Just real quick, this is on the curb cut or in the right-hand turning lanes in front of the Shops of Sebastian. And the Shops of Sebastian, if I'm not mistaken, that is on the south side of Stony Point Drive, or is that on the north side, which is where the Publix and Beef O'Brady's is now? Well, exactly where is this?
It's on the south side.
Okay, it's where the shops aren't built yet.
Correct.
Okay. On Stony Point Drive, is there going to be a way for traffic to get out and go southbound on Stony Point Drive? On 510.
Repeat that again?
Okay. As you are going west on Stony Point Drive, heading towards 510, you're in between the Shops of Sebastian and the Publix. Is there going to be a way for traffic to go southbound on 510?
There will be with the improvements we're doing right now.
Okay, so there's going to be a curb cut there, and there's going to be another one on the south side of the Shops of Sebastian also then? Two curb cuts right there?
With what we're building today, we're not putting in any medians except right up there by the Shark Mart.
Okay.
So there will be just a median without separators at this time. In the future, when a 4-laning project comes on, I believe the median opening would be at the very south end of the Shops of Sebastian.
Okay.
There would not be one for the entrance to Stony Brook.
Okay, so just now, going from 510 all the way to the south side of, I'm looking at that just in the future. If I'm at the Shark Mart, I would go, how would I get from the Shark Mart to go south on County Road 510 in the future, whenever it's 4-laned?
510 goes east and west.
You could go out,
on that part.
it should be interconnected to where you could get through the Shops of Sebastian down to their southern entrance in the future and come out at a median opening.
Okay. And so if I'm in the Publix, then I'd go all the way, I don't know, I'm just looking at it when it's 4-laned, it seemed like to me a curb cut somewhere but sooner, perhaps at Stony Point Drive or somewhere in there. I understand why you're putting it so far south to a certain extent, but for that to be the only exit out heading southbound on County Road 510 from anywhere at the Shops of Sebastian, it seemed like to me there should be another curb cut closer to County Road 512.
Yeah, the only problem is in the future you'll have a northbound to westbound double left turn lane. And when you put the storage and the tapers necessary, you would require a separator and curb in there to where you wouldn't be able to have an opening.
Okay. I'll move to approve what we have here because it's not the 4-laning, but that was my concern.
Okay.
Second.
Got it now. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. How are we doing? We are up to
That finished the consent
item
agenda.
9. That finishes the consent agenda.
Yes, sir.
9A1, public hearing. Ordinance amending Section 305.09 of the Code of Indian River County to increase the fine under the Dory-Schlossberg Driver Education Safety Act. This is legislative. Who will talk about this?
I'll talk about it, Commissioners. This is a public hearing to amend the fine that is imposed on all civil traffic penalties here in the county. It is currently $3. The legislature will now allow us to change that to $5. The money goes directly into the Traffic Education Program Trust Fund and can only be used to fund and enhance driver education programs.
Okay, we're increasing a fine from $3 to $5 on all traffic citations.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions? This is a public hearing. Does anyone from the public wish to be heard? I see the sheriff's in the audience. You have any comments? No? Anyone? Public hearing is closed.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Motion is to deny, to not pass the ordinance.
I'll second that.
Would you like to tell us why?
Well, my reason is right now, according to the backup we have here, the average, I guess this would be an average moving violation, is about $164 for a ticket. And we're dealing with a lot of people in service work in this community that work at places like, well, many service jobs, but like Target and Walmart and the different restaurants and so on and so forth. And on an average of probably $9.50 to $10 an hour, this is half of their take-home pay. And these people getting these tickets at these prices, most of them are hardworking people, have a family to feed, and so on and so forth. It's just a lot of money. I mean, traffic tickets with all the add-ons, we've got, I counted them the other day, there's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, about 18 different add-ons to traffic tickets, and it's driven the price of a traffic ticket to the point where it's not just a penalty for people that get a moving violation. It's a real problem with some of them. And this additional $2 is just, $2 isn't much, but I disagree with the prices and where all the money, or a lot of the money goes on traffic. Some has nothing to do with traffic. And I'm just not going to participate in adding another $2 to it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Similar, I mean, with what Commissioner Wheeler said, I'd look at it that, you know, these fines are meant to be punitive. And, you know, I can't see that a dollar traffic citation costing $3 less, not getting the point across that you shouldn't violate the law. And even though it has good intentions on the other end as far as where the money should go, you know, I fully support saying enough's enough and leaving it just the way it is.
Mr. Chairman, I pulled this last time to have some backup information because it really is $182. And if you don't take the driver course, and that's a cost too. I mean, that's not free. So it is quite now expensive, and there's a long list. And I wanted to just know what the list encompassed. I did, in talking to the attorney too, Marion, ask her about the process of how this came about. And this is a most unusual process. It didn't go through the procedure as everything else did, as I understand that. If you want to explain that just a little bit.
What Commissioner Bowden is saying is that generally when a statute is amended, the county would have an option of keeping the fine the way it is. The way this legislation reads, you either collect $5 or you don't have any collection. So if this board wanted to not pass this ordinance today, we would need to have another public hearing to amend the ordinance. We'd have to make provisions for the existing monies, and more changes would need to be made to just eliminate this ordinance, because there are 3 provisions in our code for it. So you either collect the new $5 or you don't collect any money, is the way the legislation reads.
Well done.
Yes.
You gentlemen understand that?
Yes, I do. And I might add, too, that, you know, the way these traffic tickets have gone over the years, we keep adding things on. It's just an additional tax on a tax on a tax. It really doesn't have much to do with traffic.
Yeah.
Well, I think that getting a speeding ticket is paying a fine is a deterrent, and I don't think the $2 is going to make a big difference either way. But I think we ought to go along with this, and rather than modifying what it's mentioned in 3 different ordinances.
3 different sections of our code, so I would come back with a date for the public hearing, do another ad, and do another ordinance amendment.
No, I think we need to approve this item. Any other comments? I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor of Gary's motion. Gary, would you repeat your motion?
My motion is not to pass the ordinance, and I guess I'd add to go back and do what we need to do to clean everything up.
Okay.
And my vote is no.
Okay.
Or my vote is yes to not pass the ordinance, or no.
All in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Aye. 3-2. Motion carries. Okay. That was our public hearing. Public discussion. Mr. Palin didn't wish to make any comments. Notice of public notice items. These are future items to come up before this board. Notice of change in date for public hearing, ordinance amending the definition of allowable water activities in the park or recreation. This will come up when? Doesn't mention when it's going to be up, Kim.
Yes, this item will come up on September 19th, Commissioner.
19th, okay. Also, a notice of scheduled public hearing for upcoming board meetings. That's August the 22nd. September 12th, Young Kim, request for small-scale comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment approval to redesignate .52 acres located east of Highway US 1 and approximately 470 feet north of 21st Street Southeast from L2 to CI, and to rezone those .52 acres from RS6 to CG. Young Kim, owner, Michael Kim, agent. September 12th, special meeting. 6:00 p.m., first floor, conference room A. B, item B, Treviso, proposed settlement of lawsuit, Treviso LLC versus Indian River County, public hearing on request for rezoning. And on September 19th, county-initiated request to amend the conservation element of potable water sub-element and the sanitary sewer sub-element of the comprehensive plan. Item D is a county-initiated request to amend the transportation element of the comprehensive plan, legislative. And E, county-initiated request to amend the capital improvements element of the comprehensive plan. And F, Indian River Exchange Packers, Inc., request to amend the future land use map of the comprehensive plan. That's a list of things to come. County Administrator's matters, none. Special, oops, I skipped a page or two. Departmental matters, none. Under item 11J, Utility Services, High Point Subdivision Developers Agreement for Off-Site Utilities.
I move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 12A, County Attorney, Sunrise Subdivision Request from Developer Sunrise Vero Beach LLC, John P. Giannoni Jr., John M. Giannoni, and Charles B. Giannoni, managing members, for an extension to complete required improvements and required sidewalk improvements.
I move to approve staff recommendation.
Under discussion.
I'm not going to second it for discussion, but if someone wants to, I'd like to discuss this. I'll second it for discussion. Commissioners, if y'all remember back a couple of years ago when we were talking about the preserve out off of, in between 27th and 20th, this was the development that had come forward that had the busted sign, I think the busted roads. They just didn't help the residents after they developed this subdivision. This is the same group that now is looking like they're playing hard to get, not wanting to abide by the rules. And of course, I know if we don't approve this, then it falls under the direction of the county to take care of it. I just have a problem with this group, and I don't know the best way of approaching it. Maybe have a little bit of help. Joe, Miriam, I don't know. Bill?
Yes, Commissioner Lapa. What the applicant is looking for here, he wants to be able to extend the subdivision required improvements for an additional year. You have the power in your discretion to grant that extension or deny it.
What if we deny it?
If you deny it, then we will proceed with calling the security, and it will be our responsibility to take over the required improvements as far as the utility, the road, et cetera, within the boundaries of the subdivision.
There's a certain amount of money set aside.
Yes, they've posted, I believe.
526,000.
Yes, sir.
He wants additional 2 years. Is that what I'm reading here?
I believe so. I don't
Yes.
know if anybody from Gen Development is here or not.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, Commissioners, they did no help whatsoever with the preserve. They pretty much snubbed their noses at us, wouldn't return phone calls to the homeowners. If y'all remember, we did have public hearings on a couple of these items with the preserve about this development and these people. I'd like to deny it.
And have the county take it over,
Yep.
Commissioner?
I know it'd get done.
Is that an up-to-date cost?
I believe it's as of the time that it was posted.
Well, when
As
was,
far as up to date, it wouldn't be today's dollars, no. It would be at the time it was posted a year and 3 months ago, I believe.
So what happens, I guess, Bill, if they come back in 2 years and say, we're not going to do it?
Then we're worse.
Yeah. That's my problem.
That is the risk that we would take, yes,
Well,
sir.
I don't want to take the risk.
And is there $500,000 worth of work to be done?
According to engineering, yes, there is. There's quite a bit of work to be done in the subdivision.
And we would handle that by letting another contract?
Yes.
And that is an irrevocable letter of credit, or is that a bond?
I believe it's a letter of credit.
I'd like to know that before we make our decision, because chasing a bond.
Right. No, I agree with you.
And so if
I
it's a
agree.
letter of credit, I would, and I don't remember where that was. I didn't remember seeing that.
It appears in the backup that it's an irrevocable letter of credit.
Okay.
Okay.
Page 249.
Okay.
Yes. That'd be an irrevocable letter of credit in the amount of $2,935,000. And it's been in change.
Yeah. Our gentleman standing, are you the developer here?
We're talking about Sunrise?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
For the developer.
Would you come to the microphone and tell us what the problem is here?
Yes, my name is Adam Armaganian. I'm the project manager for this subdivision. You and your consent agenda and which were then pulled out, approved 2 extensions for the road internal improvements for the 2 projects that were before on the agenda. Just last week, we got the information regarding the offsite for the it turned out initially to be $500 and some thousand. We had no idea up until that point that we were required to do that work and ask as part of our extension for the bond. We consider that 2 separate items. Our engineering calculations with updated prices have been approved by your staff for the internal improvements. The fact that you are now asking for an additional dollars for 17th Lane, our engineers just received a package for the 17th Lane improvements that were to be done by Falcon Trace. We have no problem working with them on that. But in our opinion, these should be treated as 2 separate items. We would ask that you give us the extension for the bond, and then ask us also to work with the staff and the developers of Falcon Trace for 17th Lane as 2 separate items.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, if I can make a comment, I'm glad to see he finally has come forward, and although this isn't Mr. Giannoli or Giannoni or whatever his name is, yeah. I have a problem with you coming forward and wanting something that now is going to affect you when we wanted some help from you all back with a previous development. And that's been the issue all along. We want good developments coming to this county. And I truly believe that what happened with the preserve, you all snubbed your nose at those people that bought those home sites. You let it go. You didn't work with them. I don't feel for you. I'm going to deny this if I can.
Commissioners, what staff is asking the developer to do in this point is, if you would approve the extension, that it would increase the amount of bonding or increase the letter of credit in this case to reflect today's dollars. Staff is also requesting the developer in this case to go ahead and post an additional $526,000 for the required for the improvements to 17th Street Southwest, I believe it is, 17th Lane Southwest, pardon me, to make sure that the needed turn lanes are put in at that location. It's come to the attention of staff that the price of that improvement at 17th Street Lane Southwest has gone up considerably, and I think Mr. Davis met with the developers last Friday concerning that issue, and he might be able to speak to the requirements at 17th Lane Southwest better than that.
Yeah.
Jim Davis, Public Works Director. Yeah, there are some issues with this project that are somewhat related. They're not particularly related to the preserve and any resurfacing that was needed there. That project came in when we had a 1-year maintenance bond on the infrastructure, and the 1 year did transpire, so staff was not able to go back to the developer and require improvements after that 1-year warranty period.
But I don't think they were willing to even help, were they, Jim?
I'm not sure of the status of that. I'd have to research it and check our file. Yeah.
They weren't.
But the issue that's before us today with Sunrise has to do with extending their letter of credit for all the infrastructure in their subdivision. And they did have some money to put a turn lane on 17th Street Southwest in that $2.9 million amount. The county would like that money advanced quickly so that the developer of Falcon Trace, the county, and the developer of Sunrise can do those improvements immediately. This extension will give him a year in which actually nothing may happen within a year, but we'd like to get that turn lane in now, so we only have to close 17th Lane one time. We don't want to go in and do some improvements and then have this developer come in and tear them up later and closed the road 2 times. So this developer was not willing to advance that money at this time to join with the county and Falcon Trace to complete 17th Lane. They claim he's not willing to do that because they claim it's a cash flow problem for them. They just want to buy some time.
Jim, when we met the other day, we
But
just...
Please
who are you?
introduce yourself and
Chad Giannone with Sunrise.
speak into the mic, please. Again, Chad.
Actually, Jim, when we met Friday, we did discuss that, looking at the option of possibly putting some money aside prior to construction. However, we would like the extension of the contracts for construction to be a separate issue. I don't see why they have to tie in together.
I think they have to be tied together.
It's only control we really have to.
I agree.
We did offer that the right-of-way permit could maybe tie into that, the 17th lane.
I think we need to tie them any way we can to get this done and make it happen, and I feel an extension is not one of them.
Commissioners, staff's recommendation is they have no objection to extending the 1 year, or granting the 1 year request, but condition it upon payment of the $526,000 so that we can go ahead with the 17th Street Southwest improvements.
Actually, we did look at that number a little closer. We feel that $300,000 will probably do the job with the $576,000 that Falcon Trace is contributing. So that'll give us a total of $876,000.
But the recommendation, and let me read it. Staff has no objection to extending the time to perform for 1 year for the required improvements and 2 additional years, which makes 3, for constructing the sidewalks, providing security for each contract. And it goes on and it says, and that the expiration date is extended 90 days beyond the new completion date. Explain that new completion date to me.
As far as the new completion date, what we do in these cases is that the contract will run for a full year, and then there's an additional 90-day period on the tail end of the contract to allow us to go in and inspect and make sure that the required improvements are all up to snuff and sidewalks are all correct.
Mr. Chairman, again, if we denied this today, Bill, where would we be?
Yeah.
We would then be faced with going ahead and calling the irrevocable letter of credit because for the entire amount, no matter how much is done within the boundaries of the development for the required.
Which is enough to get the turning lane done if we need to do that, and they're still responsible for doing what they need to do for the development, correct?
Well, we would be taking over the contract that they signed with us.
And I would feel more comfortable doing that because I don't think they do what they say.
Excuse me, I don't understand why you're saying that.
We would then be responsible for carrying through with the contract for the required improvements. So that means that the county would then assume the duty of putting in the any roads, sidewalks, et cetera, to complete the development.
Roads and sidewalks on our right of way.
No, within the development.
In the development.
The county has a contract with the developer, and the developer in that contract promises to install certain required improvements: the drainage, the water, the electricity, the lighting, et cetera, et cetera. If we do not extend that contract, the county would then step in to the shoes of the developer and complete those required improvements and fulfill the duties of the contract.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Do we want to do that, Jim?
I've got a question, too.
Wait. Do we want to?
Well, with my staff and my workload, it's not going to be easy for me to take over a large subdivision and try to find out, where we are with the underground utilities and everything, and then try to get contracts out and manage another $3 million project. Now, I'd prefer not to have to take the project over, but I would prefer that the developer contribute now for the turn lanes that have to be put in on 17th Lane to cooperate with the developer across the street and the county so that we don't have to tear that road up twice. I would like that $300,000 to be put in an escrow account now. It could come out of the letter of credit and actually the cash be put in the bank for us to draw on. But the developer's saying he wants that to be a separate negotiation, not a part of this extension. But I don't know what leverage I have on a separate negotiation. He could say no tomorrow, and I'd still have to
So are you asking
that
for
turn lane.
a 300,000 in addition to the 526,000? Are you reducing the 500?
Reducing the 500 to 300,000.
No, we're not going to reduce it,
No, we're
for
not
sure.
gonna reduce it.
You have a motion, didn't you?
Well,
No, I didn't have a motion.
I thought we had a motion.
I just want to say that we're here.
I got a question, though.
What was your motion? Yeah, I got a second.
Yeah, I got one other question, though.
Okay, how much you want to hear a motion?
Huh?
My motion was to approve, but I'm still,
Okay,
yeah.
go ahead, Gary.
You know, your county code states that for good cause, showing the board that in their discretion they may grant the improvements provided, and so on and so forth. It says that in all of them. And the other one, too, that we had in the consent agenda had some reasons, and I didn't read any in here. What was the good cause for this request for the extension?
I did not speak with the developer. He might be able to address the board on that issue.
Our good cause for needing that is we can't vest our concurrency right now, and we're just reluctant to go forward until we can do that with the construction of the infrastructure.
So, okay.
Market's down.
Yeah.
Upon the comp plan being amended, at what point will they be able to vest their concurrency? I mean, not right now. Obviously, with the pending ordinance, they cannot, the way it sits right now. But is it the pending ordinance, Chris or Jim or Bob?
well, we need to come up with a cost-feasible plan to widen 27th Avenue south of Oslo. You know, we have the agreement with Turtle Creek, but that only covers one section of it. We have concurrency problems on the rest of 27th Avenue.
Okay.
And whether we do that by some proportionate share agreement, you know, regardless, we still have to have a cost-feasible plan to widen 27th Avenue.
Any other comments? We have a motion on the floor. Any comments from you?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, by extending this, we're putting up the additional money in the bond, and our intent is to complete the project once we are able to get concurrency. I think it works for both the county and us as the developer. It makes sense. We're not running away from this thing. We're committed.
And you can't get concurrency today?
Yeah, I think the soonest would be about a year out, I think, when they put 27th on the CIP.
27th Avenue is the cause?
Yes.
Okay.
He's wanting money.
Any further discussion? We have a motion to approve.
I'm still not, so you're not going with your recommendation, you're changing the dollar figure?
The reason why we're changing the dollar figure from 576,000 to 300,000 is because Falcon Trace came up with the $576,000 number initially, and they have a section of the roadway that overlaps what this developer would have to construct. So by taking the overlap off, it reduces it down to the 300,000.
And my question originally was, are these current price numbers? And
They
nobody
are
seems
for
to
the
know.
turn lane.
For the turn lane.
I think we should leave. I think we should leave it's additional security with the letter of credit. Just leave it at the amount it is, and if we can get all those things accomplished, it's to our benefit. So I think just keep it at the same level as it is for right now, and if the number comes in less, then that's good too. So I think it'd be best just to leave it the way it is.
Where's the 300,000 come in?
I don't know, it just came out of the
No,
air.
what it is an $800,000 roughly project to do the turning lanes
Right.
on 17th. And
This right
there's
here.
300,000 that's going to come from this individual, and only about 500,000 coming from
Falcon
another
Trace.
development adjacent to it for the total of the $800,000
I'm looking at
project.
this recommendation in front of me.
I'm with you. I haven't
That's
changed the
the only
motion.
thing I can talk about.
526,000 it says
Tell
here.
him. That's my motion too.
That's the motion.
Excuse me, can I hear what the motion is?
To accept staff recommendation is the $526,492.25.
Toward construction.
That being, at that time, you would extend the contract for construction?
That is correct. Staff's willing to extend the contract. But
We're not going to be able to do that. So then when will we're not. I mean, that's a lot of money to put out there right now.
That's why we're here.
Well, I'm telling you, I think the contract for construction is a separate issue. That those offset improvements are in there, they're included, we're bonding those numbers. Just because the county right now wants to do the improvements, our money's there bonded 125%.
I think there's only 170,000 there now, though, right?
You approved it, Jim, the new cost of construction. You approved it?
We didn't improve the turn lane cost.
My new cost estimate shows those improvements on there.
I recommend that the board go with this if he doesn't live up to it, then,
He just said he can't do it.
well,
Exactly. He just said he can't do it.
I say we can't put up the additional money in the form of cash. We have it bonded here in our contract for construction.
Jim, what was the discussion, a little sidebar y'all were having about the 170 and is that relevant to this motion that he was talking about?
Yeah, it is relevant.
I have no understanding what we're talking about.
And how is it relevant?
Is that not it?
Well, within the letter of credit, this says 3.1 million. I know there was some debate on 2.9 million, but there was an amount set aside for 17th Lane Southwest. That amount was determined some time ago. We just had a meeting last Friday, to look at the cost of what Falcon Trace is contributing and what we felt would be a contribution to complete the 3-laning of 17th Lane all the way to 27th. And we felt that this developer should contribute $300,000 of that, because there is an overlap. The turn lanes overlap. When you remove the overlap, it comes down from the $576,000 to what I feel is about $300,000. So if we take that $300,000 and put that with the $576,000 Falcon Trace is contributing, we'll have enough to do the whole road.
So your recommendation would change from 526 to 300,000? Is that what I'm hearing you say, or not?
That money be posted now in our county escrow account. Not a letter of credit we have to draw on, but the actual cash be put in the bank. It can come out of this estimate, which I think they don't have a total here, so
So it was 125.
125,000 can come out of this estimate, which is maybe where Bill got the 2.9 million. Did you take that out, Bill?
No, excuse me, that would be adjusted for today's dollars.
Okay.
As far as the new cost estimate for the required improvements for the entire subdivision. That's the $3 million figure.
And that's a current number, correct? It came out in July.
That's a current number.
You live with the 300,000 he's talking about?
We don't have a problem bonding that amount, but coming out of pocket with that right now, without knowing where we are with concurrency, we can't do that. I mean, we're sitting here saying we're going to work with the county, extend the letter of credit. We're not going anywhere. But why, force us to pay up front for something that...
What happens if we don't approve this?
If you do not approve this, the contract will expire and the county will have to go in and finish the required improvements.
With the money there.
Yeah, we'll have a final plat recorded with no lots really ready that could be developed. So we'd have to come in and put in the roads and the drainage and the water and sewer to make those lots buildable.
They are currently platted, though.
They're currently platted, but there's no infrastructure to serve them.
What if we didn't do that?
Who owns them?
Sunrise Zero Beach. And we're not trying to sell them. We haven't tried to sell them to anybody, nothing like that. We'll make a commitment that nothing will be sold.
Do we have to jump in there and finish this subdivision?
As long as they can't sell the lots, we wouldn't have to, no.
Yeah.
If it's platted, if it's not
platted, they can sell it.
they would be able to sell the
Sure.
lots. You'd be in a position where no one would be able to build in there because there's no infrastructure. And Mr. Giannone, are any of the lots sold?
No, and our commitment is not to sell any lots. And we'll commit to that in writing. If you want to tie this into that, we're fine with that.
Jim, how does this help us get our road built?
The only way we can get the road built is to have the money in the bank to go with Falcon Trace's money. We just don't want to take that road out of service twice, because the people of Vero Highlands need that road. And without it, the only way they have out is Old Dixie Highway or maybe 20th Avenue. But we just don't want to duplicate
All
the
you're
effort.
concerned with is getting the turn lane in and complete.
We'd like to get the 3-laning from 27th all the way through the Falcon Trace project as one project built one time.
And you need $170,000 to do that.
No, 300.
300,000. It'll save them money in the long run.
But Jim, it's not fair to ask us to do this. I mean, we have two separate issues. I mean, you didn't ask the other developers that were requiring extensions. They
Not
went
two
in there.
separate issues, because those improvements are required by this plat.
But extending the contract for construction should not tie into the fact that you need money to build a road. and that's how I'm hearing it.
Well, we need money to build your improvement to, to handle the traffic that this project.
But my project is not going to be built, so it's not going to generate traffic.
Well, then why do you need an extension of?
Because, well, here's why. I'm telling you why. We don't want to build the infrastructure if we can't pull building permits and sell lots. I mean, we can't do that right now.
You could not pull building permits right now, but you can sell lots.
Right. We could sell lots.
I'm ready for a turning lane. I'm ready for the question. But
Standing by your motion?
I'm reluctant to drop it down to 300,000, but I will drop it down to 300,000. Jim, if you're confident that'll get us a turning lane, then let them make their decision on what they'd like to do after that.
300,000 flat?
Jim, 300,000 going to do it?
Yes.
If I can get my seconder of the motion to accept that.
I'm hearing the county administrator say that let's stay with the same number.
You did.
I think if he can't exercise, and I think part of the motion, if Mr. Giannone says that he cannot follow through with this, I think the other part of this motion needs to exercise his existing letter of credit if he doesn't come through with his money. I think I need that motion because someone's going to have to exercise the existing letter of credit if this all fails today. And I think that has to be part of that motion. Because we've got a letter, additional backup, that Mr. Giannone says that he was not prepared to pay for any of this. And
that's prior to construction, the subdivision.
And I think our attorney may need to advise us, if the board, if we approve this today and he does not go along with this extension or do the improvements, we need the right to immediately exercise his existing letter of credit. Am I correct?
That's correct, Mr. Barrett.
Okay. That's what you need to do. I mean, if it looks like we've got a dispute here, and we feel very strongly that we need to do those improvements. He's put it in writing, he's not going to do them. You make a motion that you'll approve the letter of credit, and if he does not do the improvements, we're going to go ahead and exercise the existing one, because he looks like he doesn't.
The existing one's in what amount?
I
think it's 2.9. It's $2,935,560.24.
Letter of credit.
Mm-hmm.
Irrevocable letter of credit, not bond.
Correct.
We can get that tomorrow.
First, the contract has to be, in default, I should say, or done and over with. We'd have to assert that the improvements have not been required, then we write the letter to their bank.
I'm going to say time and time again, I know the county doesn't want to get into business of doing developments, but they haven't done it right the first time. So I'd feel more comfortable knowing our staff got in there and it was done by the way the people wanted it done and finished.
I don't know why you're saying that.
Of course, that's the way he feels. Your motion. Here's the amendment.
I don't know whether or not my seconder even approved the 300.
No, I didn't approve the first. I'm going to rescind my second.
You don't have a motion. State it again.
My motion right now is to approve staff recommendation with the, except for go with, is staff recommendation changing down to 300, Jim?
That's my recommendation, only because there's an overlap of these two turn lanes, and when you take the overlap out, then it reduces the cost.
Okay. I'll second your motion.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Giannone, anything else? Staff, anything else?
No, nothing further.
Okay, we have a motion to approve staff recommendation, lower the 526 to 300,000, and include what Joe had to say about the
letter of credit, or the
existing.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Thank you. Okay, we're down to commissioner items. Under my items, I need to make you aware that I have asked for Bob Bruce's resignation from the P&Z. I don't feel that he stands up to what I stand for on the P&Z. Been a lot of hassling about traffic and beating on our staff constantly, and I think that I've been thinking about this for a while, and I would like to make a change. So I'm just making you aware of that. He has agreed to resign, and
He is your appointment?
He is my appointment, and he has agreed to resign as long as he felt that he wasn't standing up for what I believe in. And it's my appointment from my district, and He and I talked early on before I appointed him, and he promised me he would be more middle of the road, and I decided to ask him to resign, which he did.
Is that effective immediately?
Yes. Do we need any further action on that?
Well, is that
Attorneys?
informational, or is it?
I mean, did you have to tell us? Or you just
No,
telling
Not
us?
on the agenda, so
I don't think I
can
had
see
to
give
tell
us
you.
information, but,
I don't think I had to tell you, but I just want to let you know there's nothing devious here. I asked and he agreed, so I will be coming forth with a bill.
That would be correct. You'd just come forth with another person.
Okay.
And if your replacement on this commission in November, is that it? Wants to replace that?
It's up to him.
Absolutely.
That's up
But it
to-
won't be till January, though, when you make the committee assignments and things like that.
well, I think they can do it at will, if you can do it
Yes.
at will by taking them off.
Well, yeah, I guess the new guy can take off
Or girl.
whatever I want to put on.
Or girl.
Or girl.
Yeah.
Or girl?
Or girl.
Is there a
No.
girl, right?
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. Gary, you deleted the State Road 66 laning
Yes, I did.
request, but you have something about a salary study.
Yeah, and I see the sheriff's here. I'd like to ask Sheriff Raymond a question, too. And on the, Roy, on the 12% that we did, I've understood now, when that was done in here during the budget hearings, my understanding was at the time, whether right or wrong, that was for law enforcement corrections. I've heard since then that it's for the entire agency. Is that correct or incorrect?
At the time we
Hey, Sheriff, we can't hear you from there for the tape. Please come to the mic.
No, at the time we presented it, that was for the entire agency.
Okay.
We had reduced it down to the 9% when we came in, and then the county commission decided to go back with us to the 12%. And something I would like to point out while we're talking about that, we've gotten kind of beat up about doing a 12% increase, but I'm going into my 6th year in office, and I'd like to call attention that over those 6 years, I've mirrored the COLA portion of raises or salary increases each year, which was 3% with the county. In addition to that, the county has given a total with their merit raises of an additional 5%. So they're each year increasing by 8%, where I've been giving a 3% merit raise, which would give you a 6% increase over the years. If you carry that out through the 6 years of my office, the county has actually given 12% increase more to county employees' salaries than what I have to the sheriff's office. Even with this 6% adjustment this year, bringing it up to 12, that's gonna still put the county ahead of me. And I know a lot of times there's arguments in there that a lot more of the county employees are maxed out than what my people are, but if I were giving that 8%, I'd have a lot more maxed out people too. So I think this is fair. We did this with a study of surrounding departments, and it was carried out through the entire department.
Thank you. My concern is just what Roy has just explained, and I'm not sure. I haven't watched in the last 6 years what's happened in the county. Is that accurate, Joe?
What happens is we get a COLA, and it moves the whole cost of living, moves the bottom of the range and the top of the range of about 3%. But the 5% is how fast they move through that range. We have right now about 60% of our employees are capped, so they only get a COLA, cost of living.
Where do they cap at?
At the top of the range. It probably, we had a Cody do a study, and it takes them anywhere from, if you start at the bottom of the range, I think it's about 7 to 9 years to get through your range.
And your employees, Roy?
We do the same thing. When someone caps out, they only get a COLA, and that's given in 2 individual checks, and it's not actually given so that it compounds and rolls over into the next year. So we're doing basically the same thing. And I know, like what Joe says, is that you have a smaller percentage of people that are receiving that 5%, but anyone that is eligible to receive that 5% can do so. And we're doing the same thing. So when they max out, they don't get that 3% merit raise. They only get the COLA, the same thing as what the county does.
And where do they max out, cap out? How long a period of time?
I couldn't tell you exactly, Gary, how many years it works out to. There's different programs. I didn't bring that with me, and
and I brought this earlier, but I think we need to be fair and equitable to all of our people in this county based on what their job description is: law enforcement, corrections, fire, EMS, clerical workers, regardless of where they work in the county. I think we need to be equitable and fair to all the employees. How many employees we have?
Well, we have 1,300 under the board. I think it's total about 1,700 or close to 1,700.
I'm requesting support, and I'm going to make a motion that we do a salary study countywide and make sure that we are fair and equitable across the board with all of our employees, and not just select a group here and a group here, or even those that have been represented by unions and those that haven't. I think I just think that even if we are fair, we'll know it after the study. If we're not fair, wherever that comes out, it may increase salaries, may decrease some. I don't really know, but I think that we need to look at this county totally. And I look at all the county employees as one entity and one family, and I just feel strongly we need to be fair. We need to know that we're being fair. And I think a salary study will do that. So I'm requesting, and in fact, I'm making a motion that we direct the county administrator to bring back the necessary information so we can do a salary study countywide.
What kind of cost are we looking at a salary study?
Just to comment on that,
$5,000, I believe, is what I've been told.
I'll second that, but I want to ask first, how long since we have had a salary study?
Well, the Board of County Commissioners, probably 5 years. I think it's in excess of 5 years.
Then it's probably time.
And we're losing other employees, too. It's not just deputies that are leaving or firemen that are leaving. We're losing other employees.
Engineers. And can't hire some engineers. We've got some vacant positions.
So I think we really need this.
And the cost, you've already checked the cost?
I talked to Mr. Barrett about that, and he estimated about $75,000. Is that correct, Joe?
Yeah, that if we did the constitutionals as well as the board, we feel it'd be around $75,000.
Are we in charge of constitutional salary?
No, we aren't, but that's what he asked. That's what Commissioner Wheeler asked me what it would cost to include the constitutional. I estimated.
Constitutional employees, not the constitutional officers.
No, employees. I apologize. Employees.
Yeah, we don't have any.
Okay, Sheriff, anything further?
Just to comment on that, I'm in agreement with that. When I first came in office, I had Cody and Associates do a study for me, and they came back with a full-blown study the first time. I've had it updated every year, except this last year, and they let me down on one of the studies. And it was the third-year major study. They basically told me that Martin County and St. Lucie County and Port St. Lucie were not going to be increasing, that we were where we were supposed to be with our salaries, not worry about it. That was the year that we got zinged and we went way below everybody else. This last year, we conducted our own. And I think it is good. I mean, if everyone's playing on the same sheet, it's extremely expensive. Just for myself, I think the first year was $35,000. The third year study was $15,000, and it failed. So all I think that any of the officers that are out there, the firefighters or regular clerical personnel, are just looking for a fair chance to make a good living and be able to pay their bills and not get cut short. And I think that especially in these occupations that we have in the county, such as engineers or your firefighters or your deputies that have long-term training programs and really don't peak out for 7 or 8 months of time, we're turning out to be a training agency for other counties. This last 6% brings me within $1,000 of Martin County, and about actually St. Lucie is under negotiations with a union contract right now, but we're about 200 over them at this point. We're pretty close, a little bit under Port St. Lucie, but now we're back in the ball game, and I think it's a good thing. So
I think too that and when they look at the salary study, and I agree with you, Sheriff, and that they need to look at the total package, and they'll do that. I think they need to look at fringe benefits. They need to look at the entire package of what, and also the cost of living in a community to be competitive. But I really think we need to be competitive because we are losing employees the same as you are and others. And I think it's something that we need to take a hard look at.
Okay, we have a motion. Further discussion?
Just making sure this would range from the property appraisers to the supervisor of elections to utilities. I mean, is that what we're talking about?
Yes, it would,
My object, now, obviously, the constitutional officers do not have to take our recommendation on salaries, but I would think that it'd be prudent for them to, and it's a service that we're offering and we're paying for out of our budget instead of theirs, so.
And it's a
I think we
comprehensive.
have good cooperation with the constitutionals also, so I would think that would work.
Joe, it's a comprehensive study, broad-based.
Yes, it would be across the board for every job description.
How did it go 5 years ago, Joe? I mean, was it?
They're always, anytime you do a salary survey, it's controversial because the employees, you'll have areas where it doesn't necessarily say that everyone gets a raise, and you have to that's a very important point we have to make to employees, is sometimes it comes back negative. Employees sometimes think they're worth more, but it did help us. We had inequities, and we did need a salary study at that time very badly. And a comprehensive salary study is not. I think we're due to have one ourselves, whether you approve it for the constitutionals or not. I think we're due to have one for ourselves this year or next year because you want to make sure that we're paying a fair and equitable amount.
Mr. Chairman. Yep. Joe, I understand that Martin County is going through a salary study right now on engineers. Is it engineers only? Am I wrong about that?
No, it's an entire salary study, and it includes, in fact, I have done a little market survey for engineers because we're having a hard time attracting engineers. But that's a national problem, a state problem, as well as a national.
Well, I guess really my question is, if Martin County is already doing this, there might be an opportunity for us to piggyback and save a substantial amount of money on the. I mean, it can't be their comparables are going to be us, and our comparables are going to be them. And if they're going through the process, we might be able to take advantage of the same contractor even.
Yes, we could.
Thank you.
Will that also we're going into a new county administration building and some maybe fine-tuning of our different departments or whatever. Would that include a look at different areas if we need to increase?
Yes. I mean, yes, it would. I mean,
I'm talking about different positions, new positions too.
Yes. I mean, it would. If we asked them to look at that, they could look at that too.
I think that would be important and crucial at this time.
Any further discussion? All in favor of Gary's motion to have a salary study, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
It's break time, but I think we're close to the end of the agenda.
Yeah, I won't be long.
Wesley Davis, update of Oslo. I'm sorry, Sandra, do you have anything?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Wesley Davis, update of Oslo boat ramp.
Yeah, I had just been asked by some individuals in the community about the update on the Oslo boat ramp as far as a timeline. And I had asked Jim if he would be just kind of give us a quick update on where we are with the timeline of it.
Need it badly. I was down there yesterday or the day before, and it's almost a non-boat ramp.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get close to the water without sinking in the mud like that.
Right.
Use your kayak in there?
Yeah. No, I didn't, as a matter of fact, put my kayak in there. It was so nasty, I took my kayak to Round Island.
Got stuck, didn't you?
Stuck on my foot. It's a good picture.
This is, I'm sure, poor resolution here due to the dark background of the wetlands in this area. But what I wanted to illustrate simply is the fact that the Oslo boat ramp corridor is impacted heavily on both sides by wetlands. And we just had a meeting last month with the environmental group that has had a concern over the Oslo boat ramp area. And at that field meeting, we discussed a couple of new options. The original option was to basically replace the ramp, install some docks, and to widen and pave the existing half-a-mile eastern end of Oslo Road with sort of parallel parking for boat trailers and vehicles. And the reason we came up with that approach was simply because we felt it involved the least amount of filling of wetlands. But since that concept, the county's purchased the land to the south here. I think it's called the Diamond property with environmental lands money. And there might be some opportunity to put parking on the south side of the road and not widen the existing road to put parallel parking there. And that was an option that the environmental group seemed to prefer. So we promised to look at that and maybe do a sketch, run that by our environmental consultant, George Kolzecki, meet with the permitting agencies to see if that's a more viable plan for parking. And maybe in the future we could even put a restroom building there and have some amenities beyond just parking. So we plan to do that. We hope that if the environmental agencies like that, we can completely change the design and probably through next year be in design permitting, getting ready to go to bid, hopefully go to bid in January of '08. We do feel the permitting is going to be an extensive amount of wetland filling and mitigation and permitting. So we could probably have the project finished mid-08. We have a FERDAP grant that allows us to construct through 2009. So we'll be well within the time frame for the FERDAP grant and hopefully get a park that the environmental community as well as the boaters both would like to see.
Thank you, Jim.
I've got one question, Jim, and I know only because I serve on the Parks and Recreation Committee. This had come before the Parks and Recreation Committee and was approved unanimously to bring before the Board of County Commission. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe, Commissioners, we had about a 2.5, 3-hour discussion on this boat ramp a couple years ago, and I thought we had moved forward to do that. Maybe I'm misunderstood. Of course, this has been an issue for about 20 years.
Well, the direction we received was to go after grant funding.
And did we not get the grant funding?
We did this year. We didn't last year.
Didn't last year.
Okay,
yeah.
but we have the grant funding, but didn't the board, I guess what I'm trying to hear, that I thought the board had given instruction, but now you're saying that you're waiting to hear back from the environmentalist.
Well, you got to go through the
And I understand that, but I guess my question is, why is it taking so long to get from point A to point B? I've had the same question as Commissioner Davis. People had thought this thing had been approved. We had moved forward with it in the capital improvement plan.
We have. It's the permitting. What happened is we had to hire a special consultant to do the environmental consulting because we have opposition to this particular project, and we are moving ahead. And that's what Jim's saying, is that we've had opposition. We came back because of that and hired a special environmental consultant to help us move the project.
And I guess that's kind of the reason for me bringing this forward and asking for the timeline. And I'll go ahead and hit the nail straight on the head. They're building one in southern Brevard County. And I think it's going to be embarrassing, and a question I can't answer, if they put in a brand new boat ramp faster than we can repair an old one.
Well, it's more than just repairing the ramp. We'd like to pave the road and put parking in.
And I'm just, to me, starting from scratch cannot be as difficult as improving one that's existing there. And while I'm on that subject, I'm not an environmental consultant by any stretch of the imagination, but kind of going along with what Commissioner Newberger said. Whenever you go down there, you see where the boat props have tore up the grass, the turbidity in the water, the muck and everything. And I really believe that we're not doing the environment a favor at all if we don't look into probably channelizing and digging a little bit and keeping the boat props in an area where they do not continuously cut seagrass and stir up water. I think that, and I know that's a part of, we said we were not going to dredge there. I think that's an environmental mistake if we don't go ahead and start looking into that. Not to slow the project down. Let's go ahead and get it done. We can do that phase 3 or 4. So I just, that was really the nature of me putting this on here.
Okay.
Is to make those comments.
Okay. Thank you, Wesley. State Representative Mayfield is in the audience. Would you like to tell us how we can proceed with your help to get all these permits tomorrow?
Yeah. You have to apply for them first.
Well, can we do that here with you today?
Can we do what today?
Can we do that here today? And,
sure.
Yeah.
I'm headed to Tallahassee. I'll take them with me.
Ready,
Fill them out and give them to me. I didn't drop by. I think that's an interesting update. I'm glad to hear some information on that. I thought you all were going to talk about State Road 60. I'd heard that you all were going to have some discussion about that, so I wanted to hear what was going on with that. That's the reason I was here. So I'll wait and get an update. I was chatting with Mr. Keating outside. I think he kind of gave me an overview of some of the concerns, but.
I think you were on our agenda last Last time.
For a presentation.
For a presentation from
So
Shooting
we
Range.
thought you were here for a presentation when we saw you in the audience.
No presentation. I
You
was
did-
here to hear the discussion on 60. I wanted to get up to speed on that so I could perhaps help.
It was withdrawn.
Okay, so maybe Mr. Berry can let me know the details of where we are, and I can try to help push along the negotiations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, Steve.
All right, special districts and boards, solid waste disposal district minutes of June 6, 2006.
Approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approval of minutes July 11th.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 3, 2006 petition hearing solid waste disposal district assessment fees.
Approval.
Second.
Move approval, have motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Approval of bid award for IRC bid number 2006089, 40 cubic yard roll-off containers, Utilities Department Solid Waste Disposal District.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Nothing under Environmental Control Board. And item 15 is adjournment. We're adjourned at 10:40.